Hello and welcome to Borders Rugby in Focus, which tonight comes from the Gytes. It's Peebles under-16s against Melrose under-16s in the Border Conference, and if Peebles win tonight, then they will probably take their place in the National Youth Cup competition, which is all pretty exciting for them. We'll be joined by Neil Wolfenden very, very shortly, and also Iain Chisholm. But as usual, we have Dale Clancy here with me, and Dale, not much rugby at the weekend, but what we did have was, of course, Scotland against South Africa. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was a difficult one. I think we said before the fixture that Scotland were going to be up against it, and I think you've seen that throughout the game. To go in at half time in the lead, it was a marginal lead, but the depth in the South African squad, the form that they've had over the last few years, it was always going to be a difficult task. But maybe just a couple of mistakes. I think Matt Scott was maybe just showed a bit of rust from the international level. I think Rufus McLean as well showed that just a little bit of naivety, just being fresh to the national game as well. So I think these little fine margins were the things that probably turned the game. We were trying to play a bit frantic, I think, but that's the way that Scotland are. It's been coached to kind of play at a very, very high tempo and play so that other teams can't live with us. But we just got bullied, out-muscled in South Africa. They worked the scoreboard well and they took the tries well as well. 2
tries each, of course, but the big scoreline, as you say, is the fact that there were lots of penalties for them. 5 more penalties than we got, and that was the difference.
Yeah, you could see Scotland start to get frustrated because South Africa all over the field, 1 to 15. They're such a big squad. We're not as big. We're probably as, if not better, in terms of skill level, but we're just not as big. So when it comes to those breakdowns, when it comes to the tight battles on the floor, we were finding it really difficult to compete, and you could see the frustration from the likes of Jamie Ritchie. He was constantly in the referee's ear because he felt he was being hard done by because there wasn't a competition. Stuart Hogg early on in the game, he was having a conversation with the referee, just asking they were sealing the ball off. He felt, not making it a competitive game on the floor, and I think that's just, you play the ref, and South Africa played the ref. They got the penalties, they kicked the territory. I mean, the points were on offer as well. They kicked the points.
We actually had the larger pack, didn't we, in terms of kilograms? But of course, it's all about power.
Yeah, technique and power. It's you can have the biggest pack in the world, but if they've not got the right technique and they've not got the right body position, it's going to be difficult to try and win that dominance. But then on top of that as well, you've got Kitsoff coming off the bench. You've got Marks as well. They've got Andrew Cotter referred to them as a bunch of hippos when they were coming on the field. So they've probably got their best front row on the bench to come and do that exact job. They wear teams down, and then they really turn the screw when they bring them off the bench, and they win the battles at the set piece. The line out was dominant, their scrum was dominant, they dominated us at the breakdown as well. And if we don't get much open field ball and can't get opportunities to attack, then we're going to struggle. And I think the scoreline probably did reflect the way the game went.
It was very strange as well. Into the red at half-time, and on come the 3 substitutes. Didn't wait till half-time. Why do you think he did that?
God knows.
I've never seen anything like that.
No, it was
like a public humiliation, wasn't it? And say, right, we're going to really focus on the fact that we're going to take you 3 off and replace you just before half-time.
I think we know Erasmus is quite unorthodox anyway, so I think it must have been in the plan, play 40 minutes, and when it went 41 minutes, it went right, on you come, and maybe just wanted some fresh legs, a bit of field position as well, trying to make sure that they get in at half-time, maybe in the lead, or just to make sure it's tight. But I didn't think it made much of a difference, but it was an interesting talking point after the game. But still, I'm unsure as to why you would make that change then.
Yeah, very, very strange. But of course it's Japan next, and that's going to be a slightly easier task. I mean, looking at the results that we've seen so far with Japan, it's they haven't had a great tour, let's put it like that. And I'd imagine there'll be a few changes from Gregor. Bring on some of the boys that played against Tonga. Yeah,
it'll be an interesting team selection, I think, when it comes to announcing the team. It's maybe a bit premature to say it'll be an easier task against Japan. I think Japan, we've seen what they've done over the last few years. Obviously, turned us over at the World Cup. They've built a team to target the World Cup in their own country, and you maybe see the ill effects of that now. Not played as much rugby as we have, especially against the top tier nations. And I think that this tour is probably highlighting that. It is highlighting it for a lot of teams as well. But I think Japan are certainly against Ireland didn't come up well, and you would think that It'll be interesting to see the team selection, to see if Gregor Townsend looks for a little bit of continuity and trying to get some partnerships in that team ahead of the Six Nations, or whether he looks to try and integrate some more young players into the squad and get them game time, because it's a game that is a very, very tricky one for Scotland, because on what's looking like a very promising Autumn Nations can all of a sudden turn on its head and be a disappointing one with 2 wins from 2, when we should be looking at 3 wins, and it could have possibly been 4 if we were in the battle a bit more against South Africa. So difficult game coming up against Japan, and it's going to be interesting to see what Gregor does.
Stuart Hogg, of course, became the world's most capped fullback, and also a couple of tries put him up equal with Tony Stanger and the late great 1920s star Ian Smith, the Flying Scot himself, which is a fantastic achievement, of course, and he'll be wanting to be in this team against Japan, because I'm sure that one try that's eluding him could well come against Japan.
Yeah, and I think you've seen Ian Smith's all his tries, Stuart. No, I think it's a great achievement for Stuart Hogg, especially as a borderer. It's great to see him do well, and he has been our world-class player for the last decade. He has been the shining light in Scottish rugby. I think a lot around him now we've filled those positions in, like you think of Hamish Watson, you think of Finn Russell, Ali Price, Duhan van der Merwe, we've got Chris Harris, we've got players that roll off the tongue that you think these players are up there with some of the best in the world. But I think Stuart Hogg led that. But it was also great to see he was down on the Sunday after equaling the record. He's down at Mansfield Park. He was helping coach the minis down there at Hawick, and it's great to see. I know he's got the connection with Craig Rogerson down there. He's a cousin of his who used to play Hawick YM. So a nice family, close-knit affair, and you see he's quite humble when he goes back to those sort of places and wants to put it back into Hawick. But great achievement overall for the national team.
Now, a couple of club matches at the weekend. Melrose went to Stirling Wolves, got a good 22-21 result. Any win away from home is going to be applauded. They'll be happy with that on the Friday night. And also, you were with me and a few others on Friday night. It was Jed Forrest against Selkirk, the return match, effectively after 6 days, and it was 21-9 to Selkirk.
Yeah, I think obviously on a Friday night to go up to Stirling and get a result off the back of what was a difficult game against Ayr the week before. I think that's a great performance from Melrose to get the points there. Obviously, it was a tricky, tetchy game on Friday night between Selkirk and Jed down at Riverside Park, and I felt on the balance of the way that the squads have been and what I've seen, I think Selkirk started that one as favourites, and I think the scoreline probably was justifiable. I think they did perform better. They suffocated Jed. They took the chances when they were on offer. 2 rolling mauls, the rest kicks. So it wasn't the greatest open running spectacle. But I think Selkirk they'll be in a more positive mindset after getting that victory, because Jed look like they're low in confidence. And even speaking after the game, Gregor Young alluding that maybe the communication between the coach and the players is maybe a little bit disjointed at the moment. They're maybe not being able to replicate that on the field, which it's difficult, because you wonder where the blame lies if that is the case. But Jed, I've said it week in, week out, they're a team of very talented rugby players. They're great to watch when they're on song, but they just aren't clicking at the moment. And I think obviously there was 4 try scoring opportunities which were chalked off, forward passes and whatnot, but they're getting the chances, they're just not taking them, and that happens when your confidence is low. But Selkirk, I think they deserved the win. They controlled the game. They never really looked too threatened, apart from those, the tries that were chalked off. But even then, a lot of the time they looked like they had stuff covered. But it's disappointing for Jed, because they really need to start pushing on and trying to get back into the swing of things.
Well, our first guest today is Neil Wolfenden, and you're part of the coaching staff, obviously, at Peebles under 16s. And my goodness, they are doing well this season. What a season they're having.
Yeah, they've started really well. They're a good unit. They've been together for many years, and they work well together. Where's
all this come from? Because, we've seen some good players from other teams as well, but, we go back to the Sevens at the start, and they totally blitzed the under-16 Sevens tournament and did incredibly well. How's this all happened?
I think we're very fortunate at the moment with this age group. They've come in at a very young age, whether it's be primary 1, 2 or 3, and the majority of them are still here. 1 or 2 have come in and come out, as happens with all teams. But because they've been together, they've developed together, and they sort of work off each other. And we're very lucky that they've got some natural skill sets in there.
And of course it carries on through tonight with the Border Conference. Can you explain for people who are not familiar with the conference how it all actually works? Because the result of tonight is quite significant.
Okay, I'm not an expert because this is my first time to the under-16 age group, but we obviously have border teams that are all put together in a league. We're playing each team, win, lose, etc. The top 2 teams go through into the Scottish sort of quarter-final of a cup competition, and that then develops, if you're lucky enough, to go up to a final.
And of course it's all very well playing borders teams, but when you step outside of there it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, and that's very good for them. You know, they know a lot of the borders teams because they've through the mini rugby, through the sort of secondary school rugby, they've seen a lot of the same players through those years. So playing teams from out with really develops their skills. It challenges them more.
Now, Dale, of course, you're a very famous Peebles man yourself, having won cups and trophies at sevens down here at the Gytes back in the day. But you know, obviously, that having a strong Peebles team at this level is something which is certainly going to help the whole club in the future.
Yeah, I think it's probably a question that, and obviously I'll ask your input here as well. I was actually, I think, part of the first under-16s midi team at the time. It was called Alan Brown coached it, and it was the first detachment from the school really. And we had under-16s, and it was similar. We got to the quarter-finals. We played Hillhead Jordan Hill at Haylodge Park. We got beat, but it was a big step up. But we had a really good, I think, nucleus of skillful players. We played a lot of district rugby as well, like Neil Warnock, Ryan McConnell, Ewan Jackson. Didn't benefit certainly from having the vast numbers you do. But is this a one-off, or is this coming through? Is under 15s the same? Is it the same underneath this level? Because over the last few years, all youth teams are very, they're all struggling for players. But this seems to be some sort of freak phenomenon here with the amount of players you have.
I don't think it's a complete blip. I think that there are very strong age groups below. I know that the S2 team has a lot of players. The S1, I think the S3 has not a bad nucleus, but it's not quite as many. And I think that's developed because, again, a number of years ago, I think they sort of revamped the Piranhas, and I think that has worked by keeping people in the club and keeping that momentum going, and it's helped build larger numbers in the teams.
So the likes of obviously you and Mark Thompson, have you came through this age group all the way?
We've been very lucky. I think again a few years ago there used to be you did the Piranhas, the mini rugby, and then there was a gap potential of 3 years where the school developed them, and the school's got a good programme. But when we started, I think also the age group above us, we were very lucky, and we had coaching staff that wanted to keep that development going and felt that it was a good advantage to do that. And we were able to still do coaching with them through S1, S2 and S3. So there has been a great consistency that's run through that, as well as other voices from the school, from development officers, etc., throughout the club to help the teams develop. And I think that has helped with our numbers, but it's also helped with those other age groups as well. Yeah,
because it's something that, obviously, I can only talk from Peebles' point of view, but it's something I've struggled with in the past. But how do you harness this now? How do we make sure? Because I think that Peebles is obviously one of the biggest growing towns in the borders, if not, certainly southern Scotland. But it's how do you make sure that this has an impact on senior rugby and in the town as a whole, because it all has an ongoing impact. But how do we harness this?
Yeah, well, again, the club has been very supportive. We decided at the start of this year that it would be good to go and do a beach training trip. The club laid on the bus and helped fund that to do it. So the club has been very supportive, and I think that needs to continue going forward. Whether it be special coaching sessions from senior players, giving up a bit of their time to develop and hand on their knowledge that will be greater than Mark or myself. But hand that on, and then the players will begin to feel that they're part of a bigger club and part of a senior section. They already see the under-18s, the Colts team training, and we sort of do the occasional sort of fun team run against each other just to show them that next level of intensity. But that needs to then continue to the next level and go into the senior side, because you're absolutely right. It's critical that the players that come through, you'll never keep them all, but try and keep as many as possible to develop. Peebles is a senior team, but you know what? Rugby is a sport, whether it be Peebles or they go off to college and then they might come back. And I think that's important, that we develop the people for rugby to try and keep them within rugby. Fingers crossed it's Peebles, but it might not be any team. Totally
agree. I think it's, rugby's given loads of people so much, and I think the fact that if, you need to start, I think as most clubs, they used to be quite possessive, but I think as long as you know that you're developing people, and developing rugby players to go on and do stuff, then they'll always come back. So that's really good to see, really interesting. So that was the answer I was looking for as well, so it's grand.
So Neil, what about tonight then? This is the big one for them. How are they approaching this one?
So we've got the team out just starting to do their warm-up. We've approached every game the same way. So we have a training session on a Monday, normally on a Wednesday if we can. We put the team list out. They all know where they're playing in advance. We try and make sure that they are mentally prepared and ready for the game. They take every game 100% commitment, serious, right from the word go. Melrose is always a challenge, so I think it's going to be a great game. Fingers crossed we do well and come out on top, but that's what I'm going to say. But it's about making sure they're ready, they're warmed up, and they know the moves that they want to try.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you the best of luck. We'll say the same to Iain Chisholm, who's going to be joining us next.
Okay, thank you.
Well, our second guest today is Development Officer for Melrose, and that's Iain Chisholm, former Jed Forest, Edinburgh Accies, Highland. Yeah. Quite a journey. And I saw you turn out for Melrose in the beginning of the season. How did that go?
It was good. It was good until the body gave out in us. I tried hard to get fit. I think the reality of being a feather and not really wanting to leave the house at night time is and eating things that doesn't really help stuff. But I would still be playing there now. I'm just struggling with the body a wee bit. I think artificial pitch is training on that quite a lot. It doesn't help things, and probably a lot of bad habits around me. It doesn't help things either. Look, I just wanted to get fit. I want to play for Melrose. You'll ken yourself. You've been injured more as anybody. You pop around and you get, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? You're like, well, at the moment, I can. And I can's the answer. And I've got another bearing due in March, so that's not going to help things. Yeah,
it's not looking good.
No, it's not looking very good. But
this is verging on counselling.
But look, I'm trying to get myself fit. And I just want to put in some performances for Melrose, whether that's 2s or 1s this season.
Okay, so your best is still to come. But let's go back. Let's go back to the older days where you had some pretty good days, particularly with Jed Forest. Tell us about them.
Oh, I had a great time. It's where I grew up. It's my club. I live in Ancrum now. So my wee boy's got to be going to Jed Jags next year. I'm looking forward to getting down there and coaching his age group at mini rugby. Just with what's happened over the past couple of years, I've not really had that much of a chance to catch up with folk, but I have kept in touch, and I went down and watched a bit of their game against Selkirk last week. I thought they were unlucky last week. I seen 4 tries that were tries. Scott White will say different, but yeah, I did consider just popping along and playing at Jed, but I can my level. Premiership's probably a wee bit too beyond me, and the Jed being the club that it is, I would have probably felt a wee bit pressure to push things, and my wife wouldn't have liked that.
But you loved the Sevens days, didn't you?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I think the team around me kind of made it a bit of an armchair ride for me, if we're absolutely honest. The young twins are just easy to play with, and you had real dogs in the middle of there like Darren Gillespie and early doors Andrew Nagle, who would just do the grunt work between the 15s, and all I had to do was catch and pass.
You did it very well, though.
No, thanks. Had plenty of practice.
Now listen, you went up to Highland, of course, and I've heard some great reports from that neck of the woods that you really launched yourself into it, wholeheartedly, and made a big difference up there.
I absolutely loved it, and if it was up to me, my family would still be up there. They're my sort of folk. I love the club. You'll find a club that's more connected in terms of their boys loving the club, loving the area, understanding that there are connected objectives, and they want to promote rugby in the north. And they've done a great job of it. Obviously having a brand new facility helped a lot. We went from Nat 3 to Nat 2 and then up to Nat 1, and then COVID hit, and I think we were sitting about third. And the difficult thing for these boys up there is the travel. The travel does take its toll, and sometimes you're going away with a team who is available to travel away, because it's a 12-hour commitment if you play an away game. But then again, that benefits them because they get to spend a lot of time together. They get to drink together. They get to wrestle at the back of the bus. You can know what it is. Wrestle at the back of the bus and do what boys do at the back of the bus. So that has its benefits of connecting folk there, but I absolutely loved it. It was a great club, and I was given a real free rein to shape it in whatever mould I wanted it to, and we set about trying to create an identity that folk would go, kind of, if we were wearing different jerseys, they would go on, that's a Highland team. We went for scraping a twos team to getting too many numbers for a twos team. Then we brought together a threes team, and the challenges up there are that even your twos are playing in 2 hour journeys. Kind of a game against Aberdeen, a team's in Aberdeen is regional rugby.
But how does that change when you go to a club like Melrose then? Because Melrose is they're like almost the polar opposite of Highland.
Aye.
And to what job you're doing now? How do you, like? Obviously, you've got a lot of experience up at Highland, and then you're coming down to do the same role at Melrose essentially, but with a completely different kind of objective.
Yeah, so again, Colin Meagher, Rob Moffat, directors of rugby at Melrose, they've been great and giving me the heat and saying, look, we want you to create this rugby programme, and Ross Patterson, head of department at Earlston High School, and Mark Naismith, who's a PE teacher there, he's a real people catcher, you'd love him. They've been really, really accommodating and saying, right, what do you want this rugby programme to look like? So we currently get curriculum time with S1, 2, 3, 4, and that's me delivering, which is quite different to what I was doing at Highland. I didn't do very much delivery, sat in the office, coffee pot on, because we had loads of boys, and even club people could send out a text to say, anyone want to come and help at a primary school, and be like, oh yeah, I'd love to, because they just loved their club. But I suppose that's a big population who only have one rugby club. But you look at Melrose's history, and they want to win, and they make no apologies for wanting to win. And I want to win, and I'll make no apologies for wanting to win. But at the same time, it's about recruitment, it's about retention, and when we get that recruitment and retention, you can look at representation. We want to push boys onto the borders, we want to push boys onto Scotland, and the stage that we're at just now is, the programme is in its infancy, and I want to make sure that we've got plenty of boys. And you look at here, Peebles have got hundreds of boys at every age group. And that might come down to the fact that they've got teachers driving it. We didn't have any teachers driving it, but our teachers are very, very accommodating of what I want to do, and ability-wise, we're there. Numbers-wise, I want more. I want loads more. And then we look at how things differ and similarities between Highland and here, and Melrose is unique in the way that we've got pitches in loads of different tunes. Yeah. It's not just a tune, so we've got an area, and we need to somehow try and connect that area together, because you've got folk for Lauder, you've got folk for Bozels that come and play at Melrose. So, and why not go with the global term Wasps? Doesn't have to be Melrose. Doesn't have to be Earlston, and this is an area that we're trying to connect loads of different people together under connected objectives, and that's to create a really solid rugby programme that's going to help these kids kick on, and hopefully Melrose and the Knights as well.
So is this a long-term project? Obviously you're back, rooted in the borders. This is your long-term project.
What's long-term to you?
Well, what's long-term to you? I obviously don't want to. I don't want you to lay out on a plate what your future ambitions are. But do you want to get into coaching? Do you want to be at Melrose for a very long time and have a legacy there? Or you're ambitious guy. So
yeah, well, I miss coaching men. I loved Highland because, again, it was my first sort of lead with coaching, and I absolutely loved it. Obviously quite successful there. If an opportunity came up to coach men, I would love to do that, but in the meantime I really love my job. I love my job. I'm loving the flexibility that I'm given within my job. You have to work hard sometimes. Long hours. But at the same time, this to me isn't just a job; it's a project, and like you say, 2-3 year project. When I'm happy, then I'll look to Rob Moffat and say, "Here, Rob, so get us a gig somewhere."
So the Southern Nights job was just out with you now, then.
Aye.
You not chucked your hat in there.
No, I hadn't chucked my hat in there. I'm sure whoever does get that job will do a grand job. Good set of boys. It's a good club. It's probably some of the best facilities you've got for a semi-professional team. So I'm actually really looking forward to see who gets it.
So what's going to be happening tonight here? We've got the youngsters out there about to take on a very, very strong Peebles under-16s team. What's the feeling in the camp, and who should we be looking out for tonight?
We've got to be making a lot of tackles tonight. We've got to be making a lot of tackles tonight. We're no naive in the fact that this is a really, really good Peebles side. And you look at the other scores in the league, and we want to be competitive for an hour. That's a goal. Be competitive for an hour. Get stuck into rucks, counter ruck everything. Chuck loads of line speed at them. Set piece, go at them. This has been a real sort of struggle age group nationally to get kids back after COVID, and who had 8 come back to training after it, and we have got 18 pure under 16s, with the rest of them being made up of the better under 15s, and they're trying out their new bodies. Last time they played, they were under 14, so a lot of them are trying out their new bodies, and some of them are really enjoying that, and some of them are not so much enjoying that because their new buddies aren't what they used to be. And we're no naive to the fact that it's got to be difficult.
Well, we wish you all the best, and it's great to catch up with you again, Ian. All the best.
No worries. Cheers. Thanks.
So a win for Peebles here in the Under-16 Borders Conference competition. There seems to be nothing stopping them this season. We'll be back in 7 days' time. Hope you can join us then.